Let's pretend that we're in a coffee shop having our favorite beverage and having an inspiring conversation, one that will challenge assumptions, shift perspectives, and create new possibilities. I can't wait for you to meet today's guest, Rachael Austin. She'll be joining us in a bit. Now, I met Rachael when I finally decided to check out her chair yoga class, which is amazing, by the way. It's exactly what I needed. And I've also experienced her massage therapy, which, well, it's a total blessing. So when I learned that Rachael had an life altering brain aneurysm and stroke 11 years ago, I was intrigued and inspired. I can't wait for her to share her journey. It's a testimony to resilience and reinvention. And of course, I love that. But before she joins us, let me set the stage a bit. A life altering health challenge can feel overwhelming. It can often be an against all odds experience that requires a strong why to do whatever it takes to recover. Rachel's experiences, well, they were all that and more. And, I've had my own seemingly impossible physical challenge after a serious fall down a flight of concrete stairs. Not fun. Have you ever thought something was impossible? Or maybe you've had other people tell you something's impossible, only to find out it's not. What if impossible is just a story we tell ourselves? When we can't see a solution yet, or we're too fearful to consider what else is possible, or others tell us it's impossible. Today's episode is a testimony to what can happen when we shift our mindset to one of possibility, even when we don't have all the answers yet, and whether other people get it or not. Now, quick reality check. Turning the seemingly impossible into the possible requires a hell yes strategy. For me, each letter in the word yes is a reminder of what that strategy is all about and how you can make magic happen in your life. So, the why stands for yes, as in you making a hell yes commitment to pursue what you truly believe will make all the difference, even if you can't see how to make it happen yet. The E, it's all about expectation, as in having a positive expectation that the seemingly impossible is possible, that it will have a life-changing impact, again, even if you don't see it yet. And the S, well, it's all about sharing the new possibility unapologetically in a way that inspires others to support you in making it happen. In my book, From Doubt to Do, Navigating Your Pathway to Possibility, I share what my hell yes journey has looked like and what it could look like for you if you let it. If you want to learn more, just click on the QR code above. Are you facing an unexpected challenge or significant shift? One you want to make, or perhaps one that's not of your choosing? Is there something you've always wanted to do? Or maybe something new has been tugging at your heart? If you haven't figured out how to make it happen yet, you're in the right place. In this episode, we're going to help you shift that yet into a hell yes that can create new possibilities beyond your wildest expectation. Know that navigating your pathway to possibility, well, it's a process. No judgment, no right or wrong answer, just an honest assessment of where you see yourself now and being open to what it would look like to go to the next step and then the next and so on. wait a minute. As a recovering perfectionist, I am constantly having to remind myself it's all about progress, not perfection. I hope you'll keep that in mind as you journey on. In my episode about how to be a grounded visionary, we explored how 4 C's can help you bring your vision, what you really want, to life. Now, if you missed it, you can always go back and watch the replay for more details. But in this episode, we're going to use those 4 C's as a framework for each step of this journey from doubt to do, from the seemingly impossible to the possible. The 4 C's, they are courage, clarity, commitment, and capacity. Oh, lest I forget, there's the all-important 5th C, choice, because we are always at choice every step of the way. Rachael and I will be sharing some examples of how those 5 C's have helped us make the shift from doubt to do, from impossible to possible. But first, let's take a quick look at where you are on your journey now. If it feels impossible, no worries. Doing something new that's outside your comfort zone often starts there. The important thing to do at this stage is heightening your awareness of the assumptions you're making, the limiting beliefs that keep you from seeing what else is possible. Now, getting unstuck, well, it's a choice. And this usually requires some soul searching. Sharing those assumptions and limiting beliefs with a trusted friend or perhaps even a coach can help you see what you're not able to see yet. I love coaching people who are ready to explore what else is possible in their life, especially when it feels impossible. If you want to connect about what that might look like, just click on the coaching QR code above. I'd love to have a conversation. No sales, just a conversation. Once you acknowledge and challenge those assumptions and limiting beliefs, it's all about having the courage to fully embrace this question. What if it is possible? Quickly followed by, what am I not seeing? Remember, we only see what we're looking for. Asking those 2 questions can be like magic. All of a sudden, things magically show up that you hadn't been able to see before. And then it's all about getting more clarity about what you want it to look like. Now, without regard to your current reality and seeming limitations. I admit that's the tricky part, staying with the mindset that it is possible. Now, if you hear yourself saying, yeah, Kat, but it's time to make a shift to yes and to refocus on discovering what is possible. It's also about getting crystal clear about why what you want is so important to you. Get clear about what else is possible when you make this happen and what the consequences might be if you stay stuck in your current reality. Understanding both, it's essential. That why is the fuel you'll need to make a genuine hell yes level commitment to make what you want truly happen. Then it's all about leveraging your strengths to build the new capacity you'll need along the way. And that only happens when you have a learner's mindset that's fueled by curiosity about the stuff you don't know or haven't learned yet. As a Gallup certified strengths coach, I can't emphasize enough that starting with what you're really good at will give you more confidence to learn the stuff that you'll need going forward. And if you need help with that, I'd love to connect. Just click on the QR code, or maybe you can just send me an email at kat@makemagichappennow.com. Hey, good news. Once you bring that new possibility to life, it's often better than you could have imagined. And it'll build your confidence to ponder what else is possible. So, where are you now? Which of the 5 C's are you finding it difficult to move through? What's the next step for you? What's one thing you could do to move you closer to what you truly want? After the break, Rachel will join us. She'll be sharing specific examples of her experience moving through each stage from impossible to possible and how the 5 C's have helped her along the way. We hope it will help you on your journey from doubt to do, from impossible to possible. Now, it's time for a quick break.
Welcome back to Make Magic Happen with Kat O'Sullivan.
Yep, we're back. If you're just joining us, welcome. Before the break, I shared what has helped me make the shift from doubt to do and navigate my pathway to new possibilities using 4 C's: courage, clarity, commitment, and capacity, and how a 5th C, choice, is important throughout the entire journey. Now, if you missed any of that or want to revisit it, of course, you can always get the rest of the story by listening to the replay. Now, it's time to welcome Rachel. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Kat. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Well, I'm excited. And I just have to share with our listeners that when you shared how you had had a life-altering stroke 11 years ago, man, it was hard to imagine, given your age then and all that you're doing now, and even more difficult to imagine what you must have gone through to get where you are today. So why don't you help our listeners get a picture of, like, what were you doing before your stroke?
So I was working in a local restaurant a few blocks away from where I lived, and I had just finished a shift. It was a Saturday night. It was a quiet night, wasn't a stressful night. And I was, like many other people who work in the service industry, enjoying my glass of wine post-shift with 2 of my friends out on the patio of the restaurant where I worked. And suddenly I was hit with an incredible pain I had never experienced before in my life, right in the center of my head. And something within me knew that this was very serious and not something to just try and breathe through. And I told my co-workers to call me an ambulance. There was a voice deep inside of me. At one point, they had said, oh, maybe we'll just take her home and put her to bed. But then this voice that wasn't even my voice came out of my mouth to say, call an ambulance. And so they called an ambulance, and fortunately I was within a mile from the nearest hospital. So I was taken there. I remember feeling, so first of all, the fire department showed up, as that is what happens when you call an ambulance. And I remember thinking to myself, what is all this fuss about? Why can't you just let me be and enjoy this experience? Well, then the ambulance showed up and did some assessment, and it was the same thing when I was in the back of the ambulance with the siren going, heading to the hospital. Like, this is my first time in an ambulance. I just want to enjoy this experience. Stop asking me questions, you know? And so, yes, I was very fortunate that it was less than a mile away from the nearest hospital. and so they took me straight in, obviously, and did a lot of different scans and x-rays and MRIs and CAT scans and that kind of thing. And it
Wow.
wasn't until I was actually at the hospital. Well, I'm very, very fortunate. My actual stroke, so it started with an aneurysm in my brain, which many people have, but many people live their lives blissfully unaware that they have this. So when I arrived at the hospital and they realized what was going on, they rushed me into surgery. And so what they do with an aneurysm, they coil it. And coiling means putting tiny titanium coils into this enlarged blood vessel in the brain that stops it enlarging anymore. And while they were performing this surgery, that's when I had the stroke. They nicked an artery or a blood vessel. And so while they were trying to help me, things went a little awry.
Yeah, that had to be so scary. So when you woke up, what were you told?
When I woke up, I mean, I was told that I had had a stroke. At that point, my brain couldn't really compute what that meant. I remember, I'm a very optimistic person, always have been, and I remember saying to my boss who was sitting at my bedside, I'm so sorry that I'm not able to work right now, because that's just that part of me that wanted to be helping. And I was completely incapacitated. So it took a while for that to really filter in. I wasn't really connected to my body at that time. I was just listening to what people were telling me. So I wasn't really feeling the loss of one side or the other until a few days later.
And so what did the doctors say was your, life going forward? I mean,
well, they told me and my family that I would most likely never walk again. And that I would most likely never have the use of my right side. My right side was completely affected because it was the left side of my brain at the end where the aneurysm was. And it also did affect my speech. So it was hard to communicate in the beginning. But I just didn't accept what they told me. My brother, who was there visiting me, this all happened in Portland, Oregon, and I'm from England. My brother was there and he said to me, well, I'm going to start making plans to bring you home with me. And I'm such an independent soul. I've been that way. I left home at 15. I've been independent my whole life. And I refused to accept it. I actually had the fortune a few years prior to this to witness a friend who was diagnosed with a condition, who chose not to fight and who chose to just take the morphine and kind of be a zombie. And I looked at that as a lesson in what not to do. And I told everybody that told me that I would never do this or never do that, I just said, watch me.
Yeah.
Watch me.
Yeah, just you wait and see.
I had friends who wanted to sell my car because it was a stick shift and it was my right hand that was affected. And I said, no. You watch me. I will drive again.
Yeah.
So I had that experience of witnessing another friend in my life kind of take the easy road and not choose to fight, really informed my decision to move forward and really fight for myself.
Yeah, and that was a courageous choice because, it sounds like you were mainly alone in it, meaning everyone else was telling you no, no, no. And,
Well,
I can really empathize with you because I found myself that in that kind of situation. I said I had fallen down a flight of concrete stairs many years ago. And I was told the same thing, you're never going to walk without assistance. You might as well just blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I will do whatever it takes. And it does. I mean, it is a choice, and it takes a lot of courage to literally step out and, figure it out. So how did you figure it out? Because that's a huge gap between where you were at that moment and where you saw yourself being down the road.
Exactly. I mean, it was a huge gap, but circumstances were that my partner at the time, once he realized that I could no longer look after him, he just was out. He was done. When I was still in the ICU.
Oh my gosh.
So I know, but with hindsight, that was a good choice. That was a good thing that happened, because this was a person who couldn't drive. So looking back at all these sort of the appointments I had for because when I left the inpatient, all the appointments I had as an outpatient, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, to name just a few, it was good that he did that, because my friends really stepped up and made sure that I could go through the therapy that I needed to in that time frame that I needed to. And here's the thing. Back then, 11 years ago, they really believed that neuroplasticity in the brain, the brain's ability to learn, to relearn, had a 6-month window. That if you didn't get on it in 6 months, beyond 6 months, that's as far as you were going to get. And again, I refused to believe that. And so my strength came from deep within me. I can't explain it, but it's something I didn't know I had. I didn't know I had that deep well of self, ability to push myself forward every single day. And that's how I really brought it down. I looked one day at a time, one moment at a time. I didn't look towards the future, because that has a tendency to scare you and to give you the belief that that's such a high bar, you can't ever get there.
Yeah.
I looked at every moment, every hour, every day. And that's how I started to move forward. I worked really hard. I was really fortunate. After 3 weeks in the intensive care unit, an advocate of mine was able to find a place for me in an inpatient rehabilitation center called RIO, the Rehabilitation Institute of Oregon. They are amazing people, incredible people. And I was there for about 3.5, 4 weeks, and they'd give you a schedule every day, and it was 7 hours of hard work. It was therapy after therapy after therapy. It was exhausting, but I refused to give up. I refused to give up. And the team there, especially my occupational therapist, Michelle, she'd come and wake me up every morning and help me get dressed and start my day. And she was just such an optimistic, bubbly woman that you couldn't help but be infected with that, And so hour by hour, day by day, I created strength. They taught me so many different things in case I fell over, how to get up by myself, all of those kinds of things. And so they worked with me until I was able to stand on my own 2 feet and walk a few steps here and there.
Yeah. And I want to just emphasize a couple things that you've shared. One is, the value of making such a strong, courageous choice that then sustains you as you go. The other thing is that you said you did it step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice. And I mean, to our listeners, whether you're undergoing something horrific like this, or just some kind of challenge in your life. That is so key. I know for me throughout my life, it's been so key to stay in the moment, to look at what's in front of me right now, not even for the whole day, but, in this moment, what's one thing I could do to move myself to the next step and the next step. And the other thing is that you found, and I'm sure created, an amazing support system. Because when we're going through a challenge, whether it's a life altering challenge like this or just a, shift, transition, difficult, whatever, we it's so important to find the people that are going to support us, that aren't going to be the naysayers, that are going to help us in those moments when we might lose sight, because it happens.
No, it does. It does. And I was very fortunate to have, it's so interesting when something like this happens to you and people step up, you don't realize how many people around you have. I was really blown away by the support that I had from not just the friends in my current, at that time, circle, but people I had known in other places, in other scenarios that maybe I didn't see every day or keep in contact with. Everybody came, everybody stepped up. And that meant so much to me. It gave me so much, it gave me more strength to keep moving forward.
Yeah, our courage is contagious. When we're courageous, it tends to attract people who see that and want to be part of it. So it's all, there's that courage, getting that clarity that you needed in terms of what you needed to do to go from here to here. And, and having that kind of commitment, undaunted commitment to figure it out and not wait for somebody to come rescue you, which is another thing I heard in that. You weren't waiting for someone to come rescue you. You were saying, hey, man, this is up to me now. I've got to figure it out. And I got to, surround myself with people who can help me. And, because of that, you're living a very different life that no one ever thought was possible. And, I shared at the top of the hour, that you're my chair yoga teacher and my massage therapist. And, it's such a blessing. And it just makes me realize even more like how far you've come from what you described at the beginning, when you woke up from that surgery. So give our listeners an idea of like, what are you doing now?
Well, this whole experience with me, so I went through all the traditional therapies, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, but I still wasn't in contact with myself. I still didn't have that connection to myself. And so a friend of mine taught chair yoga to seniors, and she approached me and said, I really think that this will help you. Come to one of my classes. And it took me several goes. Like she asked me a few times because there was a certain part of my mind that was like, I don't think I can do that, But eventually I went, and it showed me what I could do. It showed me, instead of looking at what I couldn't do, it showed me what I could do. And so through that experience, I was inspired to help other people in the ways that I had been helped. And so when I was fully back to, well, not fully back, but mostly back to having the use of my right side, I decided to go and train as a yoga teacher because I understood how much it had helped me. And I wanted to share that with others that may be struggling with this condition or with other limitations, not necessarily stroke, but other limitations. And so that's what I do. I help others with whatever abilities, limitations they have. I help show them what they can do and how they
Well,
can
again,
strengthen.
you said something that really resonated, of course, which is as a strengths-based coach, I am all about helping people identify like what they can do, not just what they can do, but what they do best, and how can they leverage those strengths. And, I don't know about you, but I have found people have a hard time sometimes owning what they're good at. So sometimes we have to ask other people, like, what do you see in me, that is a strength, that I might not be seeing? Because it is important when you had so much to learn and to unlearn. And, like you said, as initially 7 hours a day of really demanding new learning, new habits, new everything, right? So I love that that you are focused on helping people see what they're capable of. And the thing that I really love in our class is you're constantly saying, listen to your body, do what you can do. Don't look to your neighbor, don't compare. But what can you do? And maybe you push yourself a little bit, but not to the point of it being damaging. And that's always such a good reminder to me, especially the little perfectionism in me that I, you know, am constantly having to remind myself, it's about progress. It's not
It
about
really is.
perfection.
It really is, and it really is about honoring your own body and where you are at this moment, and not trying to look like me when I'm teaching or any of that. I really encourage people to listen to themselves, and if something doesn't feel good in their body, to just take a break.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think
And
that's
that's
important.
always so reassuring, so I love that. Let's connect after a brief break.
Welcome back to Make Magic Happen with Kat O'Sullivan.
Hey there, welcome back. If you're just joining us, we've been discussing how even in the most dire of circumstances, it can lead you to new possibilities, possibilities that could transform your life and even the lives of others on your path, if you let it, and much more. And, if you missed any of that, I sure hope you'll listen to a replay, get the rest of the story. But now it's your turn. If you didn't have a pen handy and you need the number to call in, it's 888-346-9141. We hope you'll join the conversation. But in the meantime, so Rachel, you shared how, you've decided, that chair yoga was something that really helped you and how then you took that on to be able to help other people. And like I said, I've become the recipient of that, which I'm very grateful for. Um, when I fell down that flight of stairs, I shattered my right foot. And so it took a lot to go from you're never going to walk without assistance to being able to walk. But I still have some byproduct of that. So the chair yoga has been really, really helpful in terms of my balance and coordination and whatnot. So that's great. But I know you have a vision to do even more. So I'm just curious, why don't you share with our listeners how that's evolving and what you see next for you?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So my goal has always been to help people find their strengths, to help people overcome what they've been told and to work with what they have. So my vision is really to create, I'm in the process of creating an online program that will help people not only overcome their mental state, but learn to use their bodies again to whatever capacity they have. So my joy, my love is to work individually with people and work with the abilities that they have and to help them strengthen and, as you said, strengthen their balance and proprioception, their sense of where they are in space. And so, yes, I'm creating a program that will include, it's looking like it will be a kind of a membership program that will include pre-recorded classes and then also one-on-one in-person live classes. And I'm also going to include a weekly or a bi-weekly podcast talking again about my experiences and bringing up any pointers that I think will help other people. Because when the brain is healing, it's really important to adjust your outer world. So for instance, if you're in a place that has a lot of artwork hanging, or it's busy, or there's a lot of stuff around, that is going to tax your brain as it's working to heal itself. So it's really important, after we spend all this time in a hospital in white walls with a big red button to press, nothing else to look at, that's the truth. It's really important when you come back to your home and you start going through that home healing experience, that you really clear the decks, that you take away anything that's going to tax your brain. And I have lots of other different information pieces that really help you to understand when you wake up, you only have X amount of energy, and looking at it as a bowl of jelly beans, and then sort of using each jelly bean for each task that you're going to do every day. For instance, taking a shower, getting yourself dressed, that might cost you 4 jelly beans. And so you have to then look at how much energy you have for the rest of the day. And so I really want to create this program that will help those who are going through, who are experiencing what I went through, and just to share the things that I've gleaned and I've learned along the path to help make things easier for them, to help things go smoothly.
Yeah. I think, a lot of people, myself included at different points in my life, when something difficult happens, unexpected, especially unexpected, often the first reaction is, why me? Why the bleep is this happening to me? This was not something I've asked for. Thank you very much. And so I think making that shift from why me, as in the negative why me, it's that first mindset shift is so much about what are the opportunities in this? How, looking for, it's like I always say, we only see what we're looking for. And I had a funny instance of this yesterday. I was going with a friend to another friend's house, and she's like, "Oh, we need to stop at this particular store to get some unsalted peanuts." I'm like, "They don't have unsalted peanuts there." She's, "Yeah, she said they do." And I'm like, "I've never seen unsalted peanuts there." Well, of course, guess what? There were unsalted peanuts. But guess what? I had never gone there looking for unsalted peanuts. So it's kind of a reminder to me of that principle that we only see what we're looking for. So, as we experience something challenging, we have a choice. We can choose to look at the why me whining, why me? Or we can say, okay, and instead of reacting, we can respond, shift our mindset, focus on what we can do, not what we can't do. And in doing that, it's amazing. I mean, when you think about where you were 11 years ago, and I think just this last month, you were celebrating that 11 years. So congratulations. So it's exciting to think about, what else is possible. So you've gotten, you've kind of got your sea legs, so to speak, with the chair yoga and the massage. And now it's like, what else is possible? And that's one thing I've learned with these 4 C's is, when you work through them, you know, once you make that courageous decision, you get some clarity about what you're going to do and you make a commitment to it. And then you build the capacity you need to do it. And then guess what? You do it. And when you do it, it builds your confidence to do the next thing and then the next thing. And often it's way far better than we imagined the outcome to be. And it does lead to new possibilities. And I think the other thing is, yeah, we focus on ourselves, but it's also, like in your case, so admirable that you didn't just fix yourself. You're looking at how can you use what you've learned to help other people.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Go ahead.
And I think that commitment was the first of the 5 C's that resonated with me, because I knew if I didn't commit to working, to doing the exercises, to doing the rehabilitation every single day, then I could go down a darker path. I mean, I would roll out of bed onto the floor before even going to the bathroom and start doing my exercises. I was that committed to regaining my independence. And that was my driving source. Was I've been independent all my life. I've never felt comfortable with people doing things for me. And so that was really my driving force. I can do this. I just have to work at it.
Well, and it just reinforces that when you think about commitment and the why you're doing it, there's 2 aspects of that. One is, what new possibilities exist when you make that kind of commitment. So by rolling out of bed every day, first thing, doing what you needed to do and committing to sustaining that, you knew that you were going to have some new possibilities. Obviously, the flip side of it is what's at stake if you don't do it?
Well, unfortunately, that is the case. And often when people experience these catastrophic medical experiences, as I said before, I was able to witness a friend who decided not to fight. And that was informative to me. Mm-hmm. And so you have to make that choice. You have to make that choice to be your own advocate and to fight for yourself. And sadly, if you don't, then there are other aspects. Depression can come into it. If you don't see yourself moving forward, you're just going to stay where you are. And for instance, people who have physical therapy, let's say 3 times a week, but never do anything in between those appointments, they're not able to move themselves forward. And so you have to really make that choice to move forward. And the courage, you have to have the courage. And we all have it within us. We just have to tap into it. I believe we all have it.
I think so much of it is just not giving up and continuing to look for different avenues of healing. So for me, I was like in a wheelchair for 6 months. And then I was in physical therapy for a year. And at the end of that year, he was like, well, this is kind of as good as it gets. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. So I did acupuncture. And then, it was like, well, I think this is as good as it's going to get. It's kind of a common message, right? Because that's their modality and that's all they see is whatever they can do. And the irony for me was what really made the difference was I was at a business meeting and there was a chiropractor there. And he said, I notice you have kind of an altered gait. Can I help you? Because it affects all your body, not just your foot. And I said, oh, yeah, whatever, So I go. And long story short, I walked out of there as normal as I could be at that point. And a couple hours later, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not in constant pain all the time. Well, it turned out this chiropractor had been a dancer before. He knew feet intimately. So he knew how to make those adjustments that nobody else knew how to do. So it's persistence, I guess. Resilience and persistence is really what's required if you want to get to that seemingly impossible place.
Yes, exactly. And I had a very similar situation where I had gone through all the traditional therapies, but my fine motor neuron skills in my hands were still not coming back online. And so I was referred to an acupuncturist who also did electrostimulation. And so when I went in there, the most I could write with my right hand was a few words before I would get really tired. After my first session there, I was able to write a whole page.
Wow.
And after 3 sessions, they came back completely. So it is thinking outside of the box and not just going with the natural sort of what is prescribed to you by your neurosurgeon, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. It's also searching for those things outside of the box that people normally wouldn't consider.
Yeah, it's continuing to ask, what am I not seeing? What else is possible? Who else might be able to help me? And Lord knows, I mean, we have such a plethora of, resources available these days online, to do research that, many years ago that wasn't available. So, and I don't know about you, but each time I made a significant improvement, then it wasn't like, okay, that's good enough. It was like, oh, well, if I could do that, then I bet I could do something more. So again, that persistence and continuing to seek out new possibilities is what makes all the difference.
Exactly. Once you get that small, minor, win, then you look forward and say to yourself, well, what else can I do? What else can I do? And
Yeah.
that really did that specifically, that acupuncture and electrostimulation was one of the springboards for me to get past the plateau of healing where I was and continue on and bring everything back online.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I'm sad to say it's time to wrap it up because this has been a great conversation. And thank you so much for joining me and helping me on my journey. And for the listeners, if you want to continue the conversation with me, you want to know more, you can email me at cat@makemagichappennow.com. That's cat@makemagichappennow.com. Or for more information on what I'm up to these days, visit my website at catosullivan.com. And Rachael, very special thank you for sharing your insights. It's been really inspiring. And for our listeners, if they want to connect with you, I think the best way, as I understand it, is to reach out via your email. Right. And that's rachaelaustin68@gmail.com. Now that's Rachael, Rachael, Austin, AUSTIN 68@gmail.com. And, if you missed that, it's also in her contact information under the guest bio. So for next week's show, it's all about various ways to live out that famous be the change you want to see in the world, and all the different ways you can invest in positive change. I'll be sharing what inspired me to become a lifelong change maker, and it's quite a story. And then my guest, Marcia Daywood, she is a dynamic force, someone to be reckoned with. She's all about empowering people from diverse backgrounds to make meaningful change, especially as an angel investor. And if your immediate thought is like, hey, Kat, man, I don't have that kind of money. Well, you'd be surprised to learn you can be an investor for as little as $50. And you'll discover it's just one of many ways that you can make a lasting impact way beyond your imagination. So I hope you'll join us. I hope you'll be thinking based on today's conversation, what else is possible for you that maybe you hadn't considered yet? So I hope to see you next week, same time, same place. As always, onward and upward.